That's been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God.
It's always behind.
Superintendent.
You could always figure out the always.
You on, yeah.
Live if you don't want it to be. If you just press that button, your last one.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order, if you please, the regular meeting of the Board of Finance for the town of Somers on this 25th day of February 2025. Present, Paul Hart, Bruce Devlin, Joe Talasano, Kathy Devlin, and Bill Salka, myself, Mike Parker. Brian Wissinger is at the table as well with his co-conspirator, Brother Marinaccio. The first thing on the agenda tonight is the Board of Ed update. Dr. Galloway is here tonight, I see.
I am. How are you?
Delightful. You are.
I think I'm all lit up. First, before I get to any other news, I'm proud to say that Somers Elementary School is the Connecticut Association of Schools Elementary School of the Year.
Oh.
So we swing for the fences. That's 2 home runs. We hold the title at the middle level and now the elementary level. So I just want to publicly thank the leadership, the staff, the parents, and just so you know what goes into it, a very detailed application is filled out, submitted, it's reviewed, and if you make the cut, then you get a site visit. And that site visit happened this afternoon. Members from evaluators from other school districts, their school leaders, come into your space. Our students toured the visiting team around the school. They met with staff. They met with parents. They met with central office as well, and also questioned Principal Musey and the assistant principal afterward. I was told that well over 100 schools applied for this honor. And when you think about the size of this town, perhaps maybe 12,000 people competing against towns of 50, 60,000 people in the most affluent parts of the state, this is a very noteworthy accomplishment. So that I'll start there. So we are over the moon right now.
You should be. That's very good.
So that's the good news. Last night, our board approved the budget that I proposed at a 5.68%. And the dollar amount of that is $30,476,322. Included in there is a much-needed math program. Part of my task in coming to town here in almost 2 years is to figure out why our district has not been outperforming other districts. And part of the issue that I've come upon is we need a new math program. So I have proposed a K-8 math program that has vertical articulation, which means that seamlessly we can deliver curriculum that is aligned to standards, monitor student progress, and teachers are piloting that right now. So that's the ad. However, I want to publicly state that due to attrition, retirements, and consolidating positions, we've been able to realize $425,000 in savings. And I just want to publicly state to this board that when a person leaves the district, we evaluate the need to replace that, consolidate that. So I just want you to understand that just because somebody leaves is not an automatic post and hire. There's an examination process that goes on. So we were able to achieve a savings of over $400,000 to that.
In your budget process or in this year's budget?
To get to that 568 number, there's over 400,000 in savings. I just talked about, in transparency, talked about a math program that's $211,000 that would service students K through 8, which would positively impact over 900 students. So that's a large part of our school district. My goal is for this district to be a top 10 school district. We have the staff, we have the families, and the resources right now. And I just want to communicate that we always investigate the possibilities of efficiencies, and it's just not an automatic, somebody leaves, we're automatically going to hire. So I just want to impress upon that. And lastly, regarding the budget and overall return on investment. When you think about our town, 12,000 people live in town, 3 schools. We have 2 schools of the year, and I want to note also that the high school, based on the last school performance index report, is number 23 in the state. And that's up from number 65 from a previous year. So,
Is that within your category or statewide?
statewide. So I have to say publicly, we are 23, Ellington's 22. I'm highly competitive, so it's like, look out. And the goal, like I said, honestly, if you ask any of the principals, I've made it clear that we are exhausting all efforts to deliver high-quality service to students, regardless of where they are on the continuum. And I think we can do that. I'll stop there. Any questions on what I've just stated?
Great work.
Okay, thank you.
Great work.
Moving on, our HVAC project is moving right along. They will conduct bid openings on March 4th. If that goes well, they're slated to remove ceiling tiles over the April break. I've met twice with the parent community. I don't know if it would have reached you as Board of Finance folks, but there was a little hubbub about where students will go during the process. So we've had 2 meetings on that, and I'll issue my full recommendation in writing at the end of the week about whether students, I recommend that they stay or be relocated. That concludes my update, pending any questions.
Any questions for the superintendent? Thank you very much, sir.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Keeney, I think, Board of Selectmen.
Good evening, members of the board and our finance department. Just have a few things to mention. One is Board of Selectmen had a meeting last Thursday evening and agreed to a town budget that provides an increase of 4.96% increase. The total budget's $9,359,798 for what we believe to be essential services. Brian will give you any details you want on that when he speaks. Next thing I want to mention was Summers now has its own building inspector. We are no longer dependent upon Stafford for building inspector services, which of course will save us some money, and also, I think, give us service that's more attuned to what Summers needs. His man's name is Michael Anthony. He's been an assistant building inspector for the last 3 months. He comes to us from Agawam. He has over 30 years' experience in building trades, and I think he's going to do a fine job. We're going to make him the building inspector at this Thursday night's Board of Selectmen meeting. And the last thing I have to mention is we have a mutual aid agreement signed with Ellington with regards to provision of ALS response to the town of Ellington. As you know, we've been talking to them for a couple of months ago. We started talking to them.
Has there been any change from what you were telling us the agreement was before?
No, they accepted exactly what we gave them. They were happy with it. Brian did a great job, I think, of laying it out. Basically, we just told them, we're offering you the same deal we have with Stafford. There's no difference. This is what it's all about. We were totally transparent. We had a great meeting with them. This was about, 6 weeks ago. And they basically just had to go through their process. They went through their Board of Selectmen and approved it, I think, 2 weeks ago. So that will net us about $25,000 a year that we're not currently getting. And our next town we'll approach will be probably the last town that we provide mutual aid like that to, and then which is Willington. And it's probably about a third of the visits that we make to Ellington. Not
calls a year.
Not a lot, yeah. But we plan on getting to them sometime in the next few weeks.
Yep.
That's all I have. Any questions?
That one went a little quicker.
I know that you talked last time about your charter revision committee.
Yeah, the Charter Revision Committee has had 2 meetings now. Their first meeting, they elected a chairman and a vice chairman and a secretary. We had the town meeting last week, followed by a Charter Revision Commission meeting. Mike's on one of the members of the Charter Revision Commission, and I think they're going to proceed very well. It's a great group of people. They enjoy working together, and it's very positive, and we've given them some direction as far as the Board of Selectmen is concerned. With regards, we recommend they look at the issues of whether to combine planning and zoning, which, as you know, has been an issue for 35 years here in town at least. We asked them to look at the issue of whether to have a town administrative officer that would work with the Board of Selectmen. We'd still keep this Board of Selectmen form of government, but the town administrative officer would be delegated, basically administrative responsibilities of oversight in regards to town departments. And the third item was, just trying to think, the third question we asked them.
That's the first thing. And here were the first 2.
Yeah, the first 2 are the
You got the
combining planning.
town manager, planning and zoning, and then you've got the elected or appointed town clerk.
Yeah, that, whether to elect or appoint a town clerk. Again, that's, and we don't think they're particularly difficult issues to address. And they have a schedule where they'll be completed by, I think, the end of May, which will, so whatever they decide will be presented to the Board of Selectmen, and hopefully we'll have some issues to vote on for the November election.
So you still have a full-time first selectman and a full-time town manager?
That has to be determined by the Charter Commission.
Yeah.
Just looking at cost.
Yeah, that's obviously an issue. The town manager, we looked at the town of Ellington, which just went through the same process just 2 years ago. And they advertised their town manager somewhere between $104,000 and $170,000 a year salary. So I don't know what he's making, but he's a really good guy. His name is Matthew Reed. Used to be the chief of police for South Windsor. Very accomplished. He's an attorney, labor lawyer. They're doing a great job, and they've handled that issue very well.
So I think it's time it has come for professional management, and I think I was just concerned, as Joe was, what do you think it's going to cost us? I mean, it seems to me that this is going to be a $175,000 exercise.
No, I don't think it's quite that high.
Not that it's not worth it, but I think that it's going to place another set of costs on us. But I think it's necessary.
Well, it's definitely going to be increased costs, I mean, for sure. We're going to probably end up with someone in, let's say the Ellington range, when they advertised, was between $104,000 and $170,000 salary. So I think you're going to probably end up with someone like that, if the town decides that's what they want.
No?
Any other questions?
Anybody else? Questions from Mr. King? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian, do you have a report for us, or?
Yep.
Comments?
So the monthly budget reports are in your packets through everything through January 31. The current year budget is still trending on below average, which is good. No real highlights to touch on it unless you're interested in anything in particular. If not, we will move forward.
You said there was only good news tonight. So.
I am hoping this is only good news, Mike. As you all are aware, the town of Somers, along with other towns in the area, all submitted a very similar letter to the State House of Representatives and to the House Appropriations Committee, requesting a formal review and change of the motor vehicle assessment law that was passed last year, as well as the review of the veterans property tax exemption law that was passed last year. Yesterday, during session, House Bill 7067 passed the House of Representatives. This changes, so it recognizes that recently enacted changes in the way motor vehicles are assessed resulted in a steep decrease in grand lists in towns. House Bill 7067 gives municipalities the options to vote to increase the depreciation schedule for motor vehicles by 5 percentage points for each year beginning with the current fiscal year 26 that we're budgeting for. Based on our on the back of a napkin math, it changes our decrease from about 15.7% to about 7.4%. So while it's still a decrease, it is a much smaller decrease. Gets us closer to whole.
What's the whole number mean, if you did a max?
The whole amount was $540,000 that we were short.
And what does this change?
This gets us about $270,000.
Negative.
Yep, it splits the difference basically. Is about where we're at.
That bill's in the Senate now?
Yes, that bill will move forward to the Senate. It also includes discussion on the veterans property tax exemptions to it clarifies some language in the previous bill. It also makes a change to another property tax exemption for disabled veterans. And there's currently a bill pending before the state legislature that would require the state to fully reimburse municipalities for lost revenues due to the exemption. I don't know how much ground that's going to gain. You know, the state loves to promise big, and then they come up with some formula, and we end up with 60% of what we're supposed to get. But if they give us $10, it's more than they are giving us right now. So we're hopeful that some of these changes will come to fruition as they go through their legislative process, and that we can make some changes to our grand list before we set a mill rate. Any questions on either one of those?
So if they pass that measure, it's for 26.
It will be effective for fiscal year 26. So if they pass the motor vehicle assessment, the Board of Selectmen actually has to formally adopt that they're going to use the modified depreciation schedule and has to report to OPM that they're using it, sign all kinds of, agreements. I think every state in the town, every town in the state is going to jump on board and go, yeah, that was you're giving me 5% more, I'm going to take it.
And that was included in the $43 million for special ed? It was all one bill?
All one bill. Yep.
Did you suggest that the townspeople have to vote to support that, or is it something that can be decided at
the Board of Selectmen
That's
vote?
it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
No pressure, guys. If we can keep the governor in India.
Any other reason? I know we talked about it briefly last time, why we end up with such a huge variance.
So obviously the motor vehicle assessment and the veterans tax exemption, the third large portion of that is the the solar field up on Bilton Road. We went through a very long process over that. It was a case that we lost, and so that property is 100% tax exempt. It's a little over $9 million in assessment, about $300 and something thousand of revenue a year that we will not be receiving. We are hopeful that the state will come up with a unified per megawatt amount that all solar fields will have to pay. And should they adopt the law on that, we will at least be getting some type of revenue from them. But it will not be. What's that?
Is that in the works?
I haven't heard anything this year, but I've been very busy with motor vehicles and veterans property so it's possible. I know the last session it was discussed, and they were looking for, what was it, 8 or 5?
Yeah.
It was a very small number.
You still get the land, though.
Yeah, we do get the land. The land's not much.
It's talking about the panels.
The actual personal property on the panels themselves is where we're losing a huge portion of revenue.
But we're not alone in that. East Windsor, you said, a couple other.
Right, East Windsor is part of that, and Ellington's got these
Tobacco
things.
fields are down.
Infield's got them.
So the same situation's going to percolate with motor vehicle tax people. They're going to start to scream.
Yep.
The legislature has to act and act like adults, not politicians. Good luck.
When is that going to happen?
Not this century. It's not this one.
All right.
I'm assuming there's no realistic way to change zoning or anything like that we can prevent them.
Nope. Nope.
Closed caption.
Anything further, Brian?
That is it for, that's the first portion of my good news.
Yeah, right. So the 41 million, the delta between what the Board of Ed and the Board of Selectmen come up with, the rest is debt service?
No, I'll go through all that when we'll 2 items away. We'll go to CIP and then we'll get to the budget.
CIP?
That's all
Yes, sir.
you.
That's me. Oh, I know you turned my mic on.
I was trying to figure out how to pronounce CIP. CIP or what is it?
So we have a preliminary budget. We've also have a budget that would be reduced by $100,000 to work on our overall deficit. So there's some items we can defer, and we will do that depending on what the state does and how we get reimbursed. So like I said earlier, it's fluid. I think by mid-March we've got to make a hard decision, so we've got more time, but hopefully the state and the legislature make some commitments at least that they'll move in a positive direction on some of these deficit issues. Okay, so.
All right. Budget update?
All right, so I did give each one of you a stapled little package here. This gives us 3 different scenarios, and I'll kind of go through them in a timely manner. So all 3 of them revolve around the fact that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education have both adopted their budgets. Debt service continues to remain flat at $1.7 million a year, and it does include a $100,000 increase to capital projects right now. So that's how we get to the $41,986,120 number. We have the $10,994,000 of revenues that are not taxes. Those are other revenues, whether it be dump permits or bank interest or state aid. And so we come up with the property tax amount that's needed to close the gap of $30,992,000. Currently, the taxable grand list at the current mill rate gets us to $27.7 million, leaving a $3,278,000 variance. With the value of a mill at $956,000, that's a 3.43 mil gap. Obviously, a very large pill to swallow. A big portion of that, 1.3 million of that, is lost revenues between the solar field and the state cuts with motor vehicles and tax exemptions, and then a cut to ECS and another grant program municipal revenue sharing that they've been paying out in the past. It's 100% dependent upon meeting a goal for sales tax for the year. They did not meet that goal, so because of that, they're not paying out the grant. So when you look at that, and you look at the various mill rates, our available fund balance that would bring us down to the 15% policy from the town is 1.24 million that you could use as a fund balance. Anything below that goes beneath our policies. We would have to answer to that to rating agencies when we meet with them next month about bonding. Going against your internal policies, we could see 50 basis points or more increase to interest. So over 20 years, you're paying more in interest, and the caveat to that is you have to raise taxes to pay the interest costs. So you shoot yourself in your left foot and your right foot. So we have a couple of other options. Page 2 shows this assumes that you continue the current depreciation model, that the bill does not pass the Senate. We could propose increasing the mill rate strictly on cars to the maximum state allowable mill rate, which is 32.46. And then based on that, there's two different mill rate calculations. Increasing that mill rate would generate an extra $355,000 in revenue. And then you would set a mill rate for personal property and real estate. Depending on where you landed on that, you would combine the two, and that with available fund balance would give you a new variance. At 0.75 mil, you'd have a $1,041,000 variance. At 1 mil, you would have an $827,000 variance, and at 1.25 mils, you'd have a $613,000 or a $613,000 variance. Page 3 assumes the new depreciation schedule passes for motor vehicles. Should that pass, you again still max out the motor vehicles at the 32.46. However, because the assessments are higher, you get a little bit more out of it. That coupled with the various mill increases, 0.75 mil would leave you a $771,000 variance. 1 mil increase would leave you at a $557,000 variance. And a 1.25 mil increase would leave you with a $343,000 variance. So as you can see, we're hopeful that the new depreciation schedule does pass and becomes the new law, because it does give us that boost that we need to get closer. I understand it's a hard year, and nobody wants to impose a large mill increase. I would say the opposite to that is a detriment to services, both on the town and education side. We just recently had a #1 school in the state of Connecticut in the elementary school, and we're short, and you start chopping funding, and things like that don't become the reality anymore. So it is a hard year, and some hard decisions will have to be made. But those gives us 3 options that, depending on what the state legislature does, could make it a little bit easier on us.
So, scenario 3, that assumes that the depreciation schedule's changed and you max that.
And you max the cars. Yep.
Okay. Anything further? Any
further questions for Brian? I mean, I think we're in a wait-and-see mode.
Oh, absolutely, we're in a wait-and-see mode.
Decisions at the moment. We have to see what kind of pressure the towns and cities put on the legislator to try to have them compensate for some of these cuts that they made in our funding, both for the schools and for the town in general. I'm hesitant to take these legislative follies and turn them on to the citizens of Summers. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's fair. On the other hand, we're the payers of last resort. We don't get to do the tricks with the financing that the state and federal governments do. But once we tag the citizens of Summers with a mill rate, it never goes away. It's there forever. So it's a hard set of choices for everybody here, both the selectmen, Sam and his staff, and ourselves have to make to get this to balance out. At the moment, we have to wait and see what kind of pressure is brought on the state legislature, and then we'll try to come to a compromise across the board. Are there any questions for the Board of Finance at this point about our approach or what we're looking to do?
I guess one timing. You don't know when the legislature's going to act. They've got a long session this year. So my guess is it's going to be a big issue of whether you need to go ahead before the legislature acts or not. So just stand by for that one.
Yeah.
And by the way, the legislature passed those two laws last year with no idea what impact they're going to have on the towns. So that's another part of the problem.
I'm sure you're right about that.
Oh, yeah, both of their assumptions were way off. Way off.
Yes.
I'm here to support the best judgment of the Board of Selectmen and the budget they've come up with, and the Board of Ed and the budget they've come up with. I feel that these are the people who best know what their domain requires for optimal operation in all of the town's interest, and I would ask that the Board of Finance support those budgets and at referendum let the town decide, do we support these budgets as presented? I think that it's up to all of us to educate our fellow citizens as to the drivers of cost. And there's no one in town who doesn't know that prices just go up. That's what happens. And I think that both budgets can be justified to pretty much any reasonable voter. So I would ask Board of Finance to support. I attend Board of Ed meetings. I know how they make every penny of their budget count to 110%. So my support is fully with both the selectmen and the education budget. And I hope Board of Finance will support them.
Thanks. Any other folks want to say anything or have any comment? Thank you.
As a side note, Mike, I do have an email into the town's attorney. I know historically we always meet as soon as the polls close to set the mill rate. So I do have an email into the town attorney to ask if that's when that has to happen or if that can be delayed. I don't think so, but I wanted to, clarify
Well, I think that's
that.
wise to make sure we know what the rules are.
Right.
But I do think we're going to need all the time that we can get to see what our funding sources are finally going to look like.
Yep.
I think everybody on the Board of Finance has a lot of respect for the folks in the school department and the work that they do, and similarly with the Board of Selectmen. So it's not a question of not understanding where we are. It's a question of how we're going to fund this and how are we going to pay for it. And the easiest answer is to just say, well, we could raise the mill rate 3 points or 3 mills, and then we'd be able to fund it at the moment without any question. I'm not sure that we want to do that. That 3 mils doesn't go away. That's forever. Yeah, you can reduce the mill rate, but I've been on the Board of Finance now for a few years, probably close to 25, and I've never seen the mill rate get reduced other than in a reval, which is not a real reduction. It's basically a zero-sum game in this town. But so we're facing a real tough issue this year, one that we really haven't had in a long, long time, if ever. And a lot of it is due to legislatures just not thinking about what the impact of some of their actions are. But we'll do our best. We'll try to do our best to make sure that everybody gets what they need to keep the town running. I mean, there's the education of our kids is at stake. The public safety in the town is at stake. These are not little issues that we just brush aside. These are significant matters. Any comments? Anything you'd like to add?
I totally agree.
Yeah. Okay. Grand list summary, is there anything?
That's different agenda. We have, next is vote to set the public hearing date for April 22nd, 2025.
Yeah, okay.
The Board of Selectmen set the referendum schedule Thursday. So backing into it, the public hearing on the budget would be set for April 22nd, 2025.
Move to approve April 22nd.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any other business?
We have one appropriation from capital. This is for the replacement of the failing boiler next door at Piedmont Hall. This was approved back in December by the Board of Selectmen and by Capital, and somehow or another fell off my radar, and Todd reminded me of it a week or so ago, and so bringing it in front of you for approval so that he can replace the failing boiler next door.
What's the cost of
This is
$11,000.
$11,000 purchase of a new boiler for Piedmont.
Is there a second? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Matter passes.
As far as other business goes, I would recommend March 11th as a date for a special Board of Finance meeting to receive formal presentations of the budget components from both the Board of Education and Board of Selectmen. So if everybody is available for that date.
Comments on March 11th, folks?
Not February 11th?
Not February 11th, Paul. Still a Tuesday, though.
Motion to set a special meeting for the 11th of March, 2025. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thanks, Brian.
Yep. And we got minutes.
We have the minutes from the meeting of January 28th.
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comment, discussion as to the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. This is now, for those of you who don't know, this is Joe
Move to
Talisano's
adjourn.
time to shine.
Comments that are off the air.
The meeting of the Board of Finance is adjourned.